While everyone was fixated on the price chart last week, Ripple's own leadership just sat down in front of a live audience and admitted something they've never said out loud before. They admitted there was a conspiracy. Not implied it, not hinted at it, said it, on stage, in front of cameras. And the number one question I'm now getting every single day is this. If that's true, if the suppression was real, what does that actually mean for the price of XRP going forward? What I'm about to break down for you is not being explained to retail investors the way it should be. Because if you understand what was just confirmed, and you understand the infrastructure that's been quietly assembled around it, the picture becomes very, very clear. Let's pull back the curtain. Welcome back. I don't do hype. I don't do moonboy fantasy. What I do is follow the structure, the data, the filings, the acquisitions, the regulatory chess moves, and I tell you what it means. Today, we are decoding the single most significant admission Ripple leadership has ever made, and we are connecting it to the infrastructure that is already in place. Let's jump in. Let me start with the hard truth. Most people watching this are focused on one thing, the price. What is XRP doing today? Why isn't it moving? Is this the cycle? And that frustration is understandable, but it is also exactly the wrong lens to apply right now. Because what just happened in Australia, in front of a live audience, was not a price event. It was a confession. Brad Garlinghouse, Monica Long, on stage together. And what did they say? They said that for years, Ripple felt a mysterious dark cloud, a headwind they couldn't explain, an invisible negative force, their words, that kept attacking from angles they couldn't identify. And then, they connected the dots publicly for the first time. Chris Larsen, co-founder of Ripple, had been saying for years that Joy Ito, who ran the MIT Media Lab, had something out for XRP and for Ripple specifically. And for years, Brad said he was skeptical. He kept building. He didn't chase the conspiracy. Then the Epstein files dropped, and suddenly the connection between the MIT Media Lab, Gary Gensler, and a years-long institutional campaign to suppress XRP wasn't a theory anymore. It was a timeline. Think about what that means. The SEC lawsuit, the one that froze developer activity on the XRP ledger for 3 years, was not a routine regulatory action. It was filed in the final days of the first Trump administration. And then Gensler walked in and made a deliberate choice. Escalate it. Take it to the full extent. Make it bleed. 3 years. 3 years where builders were afraid to build on the XRP ledger. 3 years where institutional capital sat on the sideline waiting for legal clarity. 3 years of a chilling effect on the most capable payment infrastructure in the world. And here is what Brad said on stage. They were afraid of us. The technology was ahead of its time. It was a threat. That's not frustration. That's confirmation. The suppression was real. It's now publicly acknowledged by the people who lived through it. And the question is no longer whether it happened. The question is what happens now that it's over. Let's do the math that the retail crowd ignores. The global cross-border payments market moves approximately $150 trillion annually. The Nostro Vostro system, the pre-funded liquidity pools that banks around the world are required to maintain just to make international settlements work, has $27 trillion locked up in it at any given time. Sitting idle, earning nothing, just waiting to be used as a buffer because the current system is slow, fragmented, and expensive. XRP was built to eliminate that buffer, to be the bridge asset that moves in 3 to 5 seconds and removes the need for pre-funded accounts entirely. Now here's where the math gets uncomfortable for people who are still pricing XRP like a speculative retail token. Fixed supply, 100 billion XRP, total ever. That number cannot change. Circulating supply, approximately 55 to 57 billion. Escrow releases, 1 billion per month, but the overwhelming majority gets relocked. The net release is a fraction of that. If you want to move a meaningful share of that $150 trillion in annual cross-border volume through XRP as a bridge asset, the price isn't a prediction, it's a requirement. Let me say that again. The price is a requirement of the system functioning at scale. Here's a simplified version. To move $1 million through a bridge asset, you need enough liquidity that the transaction doesn't move the market. The higher the per-unit price of XRP, the more efficient the bridge. Higher price means less slippage. Less slippage means institutions actually use it. That's not a moonboy argument. That is basic liquidity mechanics. And now, layer on top of that what Brad just revealed on stage. G-Treasury, one of Ripple's major acquisitions, processed $14 trillion in payment flows last year. $14 trillion. And how much of that went through crypto or stablecoins? Zero. That's the opportunity sitting right in front of us. That is $14 trillion in existing payment flow from over 1,000 corporates, ranging from mid-sized companies up to Fortune 50, that has not yet been touched by XRP, RLUSD, or Ripple payments. Not because they don't want it, because the infrastructure wasn't complete. It is now. While retail investors are arguing about charts and 4-year cycles, let me show you what the smart money is actually doing. Start with the banks. Monica Long revealed on stage that Ripple is working directly with Bank of America Merrill Lynch, CIBC Canada, Royal Bank of Canada, the 4th largest bank in the world, Santander Group, currently ranked 19th worldwide, Charter Group, and Westpac Australia. 7 core banks helping build Ripple's global governance structure. Does that sound like a project that's dying? Does that sound like a network that got regulated out of existence? 7 of the world's largest financial institutions are not in governance discussions with a dead project. They are positioning. Then there's the DXC Technology Partnership, and this one deserves your full attention. DXC has integrated XRP and RLUSD directly into the Finastra Fusion and DXC Hogan core banking platforms. Hogan alone supports $5 trillion in deposits and 300 million accounts across 40 institutions. That is not a press release. That is a live integration sitting inside the core banking infrastructure of 6 of the top 10 U.S. banks. Then there's the OCC Trust Bank application. Ripple is building a nationally chartered trust bank. Not an exchange, not a trading platform. A trust company designed to provide crypto custody in a fiduciary capacity, collateral trustee services, and management of the segregated reserves backing RLUSD. This is regulated financial plumbing. This is Ripple building the rails that every institution needs before it can move real money through blockchain infrastructure. Ask yourself this: does a company building for a failing project apply for a national banking charter? Do they acquire Hidden Road, a prime brokerage serving institutional clients? Do they spend years fighting a legal battle they could have settled just to protect the asset's legal standing? No, they don't. They position, and they have been positioning this entire time. Here's what's coming, and I want you to listen to this carefully, not as a list of hopium, but as a sequenced structure. The OCC Trust Bank application is in process. When that charter is approved, Ripple becomes a regulated institutional custodian at the federal level. That is a gate that opens institutional custody flows that cannot move until that gate exists. The Digital Asset Clarity Act is moving. Regulatory classification, determining definitively whether XRP is a commodity, removes the last layer of institutional risk that has kept major U.S. allocators on the sideline. RLUSD is live and scaling as corporates inside the G-Treasury network begin migrating payment flows to RLUSD for yield. That is direct demand pressure on Ripple's ecosystem, and a proof of concept for every other corporate that hasn't moved yet. And the world tour Brad referenced. This isn't optics. When Ripple's CEO is in Australia connecting with regulators, institutions, and community in the same week they're announcing governance bank partnerships and trust company filings, That is coordinated positioning across every jurisdiction simultaneously. Brad said it himself. There isn't one switch. There are 100 switches, 1,000 switches, and right now they are flipping, one by one. And then at some point, you won't see a single catalyst. You'll look back and realize the switch was already flipped. It happened while the crowd was still waiting for it. Let me be direct with you. The people who are still pricing XRP based on the 4-year crypto cycle, on the assumption that there will be a pump, a dump, and then a 2-year ghost town, are using a model that was built for a world without institutional infrastructure. When institutional capital begins flowing in trillions, not billions, when regulations are set and fiduciaries are legally cleared to allocate, you don't get 90% drawdowns. You get a permanently elevated floor. You get liquidity that retail alone cannot provide and cannot destroy. The window to be positioned before that happens is not infinite. The liquid supply of XRP is not growing. Exchange reserves are not growing. The corporates inside the G Treasury network haven't moved to XRP yet, but they know about it now. 1,000 corporates, Fortune 50 clients, they now have a Ripple product in their banking window. The question is not whether this happens. The question is whether you're on the right side of the structure when it does. The suppression was real. It's been admitted. It cost 3 years of development, adoption, and price discovery. And yet, through all of it, the technology survived, the community held, and the infrastructure got built anyway. They underestimated the resolve of this community. And now, the switch is being flipped, not in a single moment, but through 1,000 quiet moves that most people are not watching closely enough. I am watching, and I'm telling you what I see. If you're new here, subscribe. This channel doesn't do noise. We do structure. And if you made it this far, drop switches in the comments. I want to see who's actually paying attention. In a market fueled by emotion and noise, we thrive on data and composure. Stay patient, stay rational, and as always, we don't wait for the future.